2 years after you get to Auburn, if I'm doing all this right, I think in 77, you get to Auburn. I think in 79, Scott Tyler gets to Auburn. And I think he spent 1 year there before he made his way back to Eastern Michigan and wound up being a MAC champion and kind of finishing his career out there. But tell me about Scott Tyler, a legend in Michigan. Certainly guys go fast all over the place, but Scott went 4:31 in the 500 in high school, which broke the state record by 3 seconds. He lowered the Michigan state record by 3 seconds from 4:34 to 4:31, won 2 state titles. Pulled off an awesome upset at John Spade at the state meet his junior year, a guy who went on to Texas and was a Texas school record holder later. And you actually met across paths with later, because I think he was finishing at Texas around the time that you got there. But
he was.
Scott was a stud and one of the great distance swimmers in the state of Michigan, and now a great guy and the orthodontist of the thumb of Michigan. But tell me about Scott when you knew him.
Well, Scott is another one of those guys that just makes me laugh. I mean, he has if you know Scott, he has the best, right? So, he just has the best sense of humor. It's just, I just look at him and I start laughing. That's what's so crazy about it. So I love being around a person that can make me laugh. And Scott was, like you said, man, he was so talented. He had so much talent. It's hard. Auburn is not for everybody, somebody from Michigan can come down like Drew, have a great freshman year and would have stayed if Eddie would have stayed. Some people can come from France and have a great career. Or, some people from Brazil, like Cesar Cielo, can go there and, be a world record holder. And then there's others that just, it's just not that their cup of tea, so to speak. And I think in the end, Scott was a Michigan man. He loved Michigan and he missed being home.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. I got homesick a lot my freshman year. But I don't know why that. I don't remember exactly if that's the the reason why he left, but I know that had to play a big part of it. He missed being home, or missed being close to home anyway. And so but we had a great time. He's a great guy. He was my roommate too. I roomed with Scott and a guy named Tom Kelly, and never laughed so hard in my life that 1 year. Never laughed so hard.
So you crossed paths and really got to race with a couple of Michigan sprinting legends, and they could be paired together because one idolized the other. John Newton was a couple of years older than you, so when you came on the scene in the SEC, John Newton was a force to be dealt with. He was the anchor on some of Tennessee's national champion relays and just a monster. And back in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a young John Van Meter, who was 5 years younger, was idolizing Newton. And so he wound up showing up your senior year. Van Meter was third in the 50-year senior year, as the champ, kind of reigned there, but he was third and a young freshman for Tennessee. But I guess starting with Newton, I'm sure you remember racing him because he was, one of the top sprinters, not only in the SEC, but the nation, but the world at that time. What do you remember about John Newton?
Well, you just said the word, buddy. Monster. I was deathly afraid of John Newton. I'm not kidding. That guy just scared the crap out of me. All those Tennessee guys scared me to death. I avoided them like the plague because I knew if I faced them outside the pool, they'd get in my mind, they'd get in my head, and I'd just crumble, So I avoided John Newton at all costs because I just knew he was just like a god, all those guys, John Newton especially, because he was so good. He was so fast. He had so much speed. And so I guess to put a button on it, I was in awe of John Newton. And I was in awe of the whole Tennessee sprint program and Ray Bussard and what he was able to accomplish my freshman year. And and what they did. I think they put 4 guys in the top 6 in the 50 freestyle at NCAAs. It was something crazy, and Newton was one of them. But anyway, it was a great team, great guy. I never really knew him in person because like I said, I didn't want to know him. I was too scared of him. I probably would like to get to know him, but I was always too scared. I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, obviously, but and then Van Meter, he just was sort of after me, you know.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because he was sort of on that same sort of plane as John. You just knew he was going to be really good. He was a monster too, but he was younger, and I was kind of, you know, in the home stretch, so to speak, and he was still kind of coming up. But I knew that he was going to be one of those guys that was, you know, had all the talent in the world and was going to be really good in the sport.